All right, so for day 36, I want to qualify what I'm about to say with this statement. I don't hate social media, and I'm not necessarily discouraging anyone from using Facebook or Instagram or X or any of that. But the quote today is actually from a song. I promise I'm not grasping for straws here at topics. This one just really spoke to me, and it's a song that just always comes up across my Spotify playlist, just seeming like when I need it, it comes across. And it's called The Internet by a fella named John Bellion. And the lyrics, or the quote from that song today, it says, "Life became dangerous the day we all became famous. No one cares if you're happy, just as long as you claim it." Again, life became dangerous the day we all became famous. No one cares if you're happy, just as long as you claim it. So what does that mean to me? We all became famous when, I think, the birth or the infancy of social media, because nowadays everybody, almost seemingly everybody, has an audience, has some sort of following. And now more than ever, we can seek immediate attention, and we can get those dopamine hits from other people telling us that we look good, or from the likes and hearts and shares and retweets. And a lot of those are just such shallow pleasantries, shallow interactions. But like if you look at like Instagram, for example, it's like there was just photos at one point, and then there were like photos and videos, and then there were like photos and videos and reels, and then there were like stories, Instagram stories. And then initially the Instagram stories were just like, it was just flashes of a few seconds, but then you could actually like and heart stories and comment on stories, and then you could go live. And then all the social media started following that kind of model, where now Facebook has stories and lives and all this. And like I got to the point where, like, for me, and I think all humans go through this kind of life cycle of social media, where you really start with good intentions. I think I was really pretty young, still pretty young. So, young when it came out, and like, it's not in bad intention. You're keeping up with your buddies and maybe that girl that you liked, and then, and you're keeping up with your grandma, and your grandma's keeping up with you. And over time, though, you can really not only get addicted to it, but your intentions can kind of start to get a little mischievous, of like, I'm posting things just to get attention. Like, I haven't had my dopamine hit today of attention, so I'm going to, especially if you're trying to work out or look good, you're going to let everyone see it, and get those comments and post the progress pictures. And again, it's not all bad. It's not all bad intention, but I truly think if, like I always say again, if we look ourselves in the mirror, if we slow down and we really do like an assessment of like, okay, what am I posting to keep in touch or to promote something positive? Even these videos are a form of social media. Like, we can use them for positives, or we can use them for self-serving, or something that's kind of filling the void of something that's missing in our life. So we're just seeking attention that we really probably need to be looking more internally for, or people that are just present in our lives. Like, so again, not to rant too much about that, but I went through the whole exercise in my life of using social media, probably what I would consider like the right or pure way, to then just seeking attention on social media. I became aware of that. It wasn't like some malicious thing, but you wake up one day and it's like, this has gotten to be too much. And once you're aware of that, it's really hard not to see it. And, I got to the point where a couple years ago, I decided to get off Instagram, to get off Facebook, to get off X. And again, not to say that's the thing that everyone should do, not to say I'm perfect for doing that by any stretch, because honestly, I very well could replace, the bad things that I was utilizing social media for attention and stuff. I could have replaced that with anything else on my plate, because, you give something off your plate, you're going to put something else on. So if I'm not replacing it with something that's more productive, then it's all just a net zero. But I just wonder, again, not encouraging anyone to like delete it or go dark off of it or whatever, but I think it at least begs the question, because it's such an important part of all of our lives, it feels like, to at least step back and be like, am I utilizing this too much? Am I utilizing it about the right amount? For whatever I am utilizing it for, is it like good for me and my soul and the people around me? Do I find myself spending unproductive time on there? And if this doesn't apply, like skip through today's message, whatever. Or if it kind of makes you mad, maybe it is convicting and maybe you need to be listening to it, to be honest. I don't want to offend anyone, but sometimes even to myself, I'll say something that's like almost offend myself. And it's like, oh, maybe I just needed to hear that, So to at least consider it. What are we using that for? And are we trying to use it in the right way, or just for some humanistic attention that we really need to be filling that void with joy and God and things that we could probably be a little bit more productive? And the Bible talks about pride. It talks about a lot about just our minds, and are we going to do things for God or do them in self-serving ways? And again, pride is just a big topic in the Bible. So there's so many verses, by the way, in Romans and Proverbs and Psalms, all about this topic. But I'm just going to hit you with 2 verses today, one in Romans and one in Proverbs. So the first one, it's Romans chapter 12, verse 3. And it says, "For by the grace given me, I say to every one of you, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you." Think of yourself with sober judgment, and do not think of yourself more highly than you ought. Again, I struggle with this. Like, I bring this topic up just because I've been a person that's seeking attention through social media and promoting yourself and trying to get you get a big head. And it's like, again, I'm not saying be self-sabotaging or to be, to think of yourself in a bad way by any stretch, not to be like self-deprecating, but just to remind ourselves, like, our identity is in Christ. And, if we're evaluating ourselves solely by worldly standards of success and achievement, it's going to cause you to think way too much about your worth in the eyes of others and miss, truly how you are in the eyes of God. And again, lastly, in Proverbs, my last verse is Proverbs chapter 8, verses 13. Something similar here. It says, "To fear the Lord is to hate evil. I hate pride and arrogance, evil behavior and perverse speech." And it just goes back to, like, the more that we fear and respect God, the more we're going to hate evil. And the more that we love God, our love for sin simply cannot exist. Harboring these secret intentions and these secret sins, if you will, harboring that kind of stuff, you're just tolerating like evil within yourself. I'm not trying to sound like fire and brimstone, but that's truly what's going on. Like, if I'm living to promote myself in a way on social media that is not serving God, it can be hard to hear. Again, I know it can be hard to hear, and I've been a victim of this, but that's harboring things inside of me that is not farthering the kingdom. Just trying to challenge myself and anyone listening to this to make a clean break with sin and committing ourselves to God completely. So again, I just bring that up because social media is such a big part of our lives. Maybe you need to take a break. Maybe you get back to being on. Maybe that'll help, you kind of realize where you stand with it. Or maybe it is just turning it off and seeing if you need to come back to it. Last thing I'll say, though, is when I got off of it a couple years ago, like, you'd always think it's going to be difficult because it's such a part of your life and you're always on Instagram and you're involuntarily clicking Facebook. It's so much easier than you think. Once you just get out of that first few week habit of like the FOMO, the fear of missing out, you do get behind on just family news or friend news every now and again. And I almost take a little bit of pride in that, I guess, or joy. Like, you're not trying to be prideful, but just it's okay to live in the world and not of the world. So just trying to subscribe to that. Again, I'm not perfect. I've had struggles with social media for sure in the past, but I thought that was an interesting topic. It's an important part of our life. Think about it. How are we utilizing it? How can we best go about our days, whether that's including social media or not? That's day 36.